Hi everyone, my name is Abraham Gonzalez. I'm also known as PopSec in the bug bounty community. That's P0PSEC. And this is a re-recording of my live session at APISECCon this year. Uh, it's titled "My First API Bugs: Lessons from a New Bug Bounty Hunter," and yeah, I'm giving this talk to kind of share the bugs that I've come across as a new bug bounty hunter. A little bit about me: I have a full-time job outside of bug bounty hunting. I am a QA manager over at Everon, so I manage a team of testers and QA engineers. Uh, I do that by day, and by night, I'm a bug bounty hunter. Um, my journey with bug bounty hunting really started at Defcon this past year, Defcon 33. For those of you who are familiar with Defcon, it's a cybersecurity conference where you can go and learn about different things regarding security. DEF CON is split up into different villages, and there's one village called the Bug Bounty Village. I attended a talk there by Rhino Raider around Kaido, and I was just drawn in to bug bounty hunting. And as a QA, I've tested APIs, I've tested web applications, but mostly to verify that requirements are being met, right? What's cool about bug bounty hunting is that it's centered around security and impact. And so after DEF CON, I went home and I'm like, man, I got to learn how to hack these web applications. Where can I get started? And that's where I came across APISec University and Corey Ball's course on API pen testing. And so on August 15th, 5 days after DEF CON, I started that course. Now, it took me a couple months to get through the entire content, right? I ended up finishing the course in November 19th. Uh, but during that time, from when I started to when I completed the course, I started bug bounty hunting. I just couldn't um, I couldn't resist, right? So I started the course and started bug bounty hunting. Everything I would learn in the pen testing course, I would take it with me and see if I could find a bug or find a vulnerability on a program. And on September 21st, I found my first bug. I reported it and got paid. And on October 22nd, I found my second bug and got paid for that. And then again, I completed the course a month after that. Uh, so this talk is centered around those two findings. We'll get into the details of what those bugs were and what they looked like. But I do want to mention this past Saturday, I finally got to pass the ASCP. That is the certification that you can obtain after completing the pen test course and then passing that test, right? So I completed that on February 7th, and today I am a APISecCon speaker. So that's why I'm here. So let's jump in to these two bugs. My hope is that if you're looking to get started in bug bounty hunting, that this would be an inspiration to you, that this would be an encouragement to you. I know that with AI and everything going on around that, it can be discouraging. It can feel like it's too late to join, but it's not. If you guys watched Katie Paxton's talk earlier in the conference, she talks about how for AI and AI hackbots, it's really hard to find contextual based vulnerabilities or bugs that will require you to understand the context of the web application. And really, both of my bugs require that. You'll see in a second. So why don't we go ahead and jump in here. For my first bounty, my first bug that got paid out, it was a sensitive data exposure issue. And the way I came across this was I was poking around at a big a tire retail store, and I noticed in the API traffic that they had a GraphQL endpoint. And for those of you who are not familiar with GraphQL, it's different than REST APIs. In REST APIs, we're typically dealing with like get, post, delete, put endpoints with different URL paths. But with the GraphQL API endpoint, it's only one path. It's usually post like target.com/GraphQL. And the way you get different data is in the request body. You input the GraphQL query. A different GraphQL query will return different results, right? So that's how that works. It's the same endpoint, but the request payload is different, and that's how you can obtain different data. Now, in order to grab data, or in order for a GraphQL API endpoint to return data, you need to know what the queries are. And that's not always given to you right away. You can discover them by navigating through the app and observing the network traffic. But another way you can get it is through this thing called introspection. So there's this giant payload that you can put into a GraphQL endpoint. It's an introspection payload, and if introspection is enabled, the backend server will return all of the queries and all of the mutations that you can run on that GraphQL endpoint. So queries are usually ran to obtain data, to grab data, or to get data. Mutations are used to modify data. So when I found this endpoint on this entire retail company, I ran the introspection query, and to my surprise, introspection was enabled, and I was able to obtain all of their queries and all of their mutations. And I did that using a tool called GraphQL. You can look that up on the side later. I also fed the entire schema, is what that's called when you get all the queries and all the mutations. So I grabbed the schema, which you can see here, right on the right, and I fed it to another tool called GraphQL Voyager. And when you feed this to GraphQL Voyager, it takes the schema and then it creates a beautiful illustration of how all of those queries and data and mutations are all related. So you can see an example down here. This is not the schema of the target I was targeting because I don't want to expose them, but it looks something like that. So I started poking around there, and what I noticed is that there was a query that returned tracking numbers and tracking URLs for orders that were being placed on this retail company's site. So it looks something like this. You can see on the left, I've crafted a query payload to obtain all these orders and the tracking numbers. I did some of this by hand, but AI helped me with a lot of it. I actually fed AI the schema, and I asked it, hey, can you write the query for me that will return all these tracking numbers? And then I kind of modified the constraints and things like that. So you can see here, I've blocked out the URL, but you can see it's a GraphQL endpoint, and in the response, we can see that there was a tracking number. I've redacted that for this customer's privacy, and a tracking URL. And you could literally take that URL, put it in your browser, and it would show you the tracking information for that order. Now, FedEx is pretty good. FedEx does not expose PII information when you have a tracking ID, so it doesn't tell you the name of the person that this order is for or their address. And UPS is the same way, USPS is the same way, but there are other shipping companies that are not, I'm not going to mention here today, that do expose first, last name, and address of the recipient of the order. And so I reported this to the company, and I let them know, hey, like, this GraphQL endpoint is unauthenticated. I'm not using a token to call on this. Anybody can call on it. You can call on it right now, and it's going to return tracking information, which you can look up, right? The entire company validated it and let me know, yep, this is a valid vulnerability, and they paid me $700 for it, which I was very grateful for, and that was my first bug for, a sensitive data exposure. Okay, so moving on here to the second bug that I've come across as a new bug bounty hunter. It's going to be super surprised. Well, I was surprised by this, but it ended up being a critical bug. And this bug was found on a major burrito franchise. So I love burritos, and I was so excited when I found this. But the way I came across this bug is as follows. I was I was poking around, observing the network traffic, and on one of their checkout um, pages, I noticed that you could tip, right, when you're ordering for delivery, for example. I clicked on tip, and when I clicked on it, I saw an API request come through, and the tip was in the request payload, and then it modified my total, right? So I did it again, but the second time I intercepted it, and I was like, what if I modify the tip and make it a negative value? And so I put like -10 to tip. Not a very nice thing to do, but I sent the request and I was met with an error that time. The error said your tip cannot be negative and your total must be at least $1, or it must be greater than or equal to $1, something like that. So I was bummed. That didn't work. So then I remembered, well, you know what? When I click on tip, there's a ton of fields there, not just the tip field that I see in the put request payload. So I clicked on tip again, intercepted the request, looked at that payload, and I saw that my total was there. So I'm like, well, maybe I can modify the total with this put request. And so I set the total from $80 to like $10. I hit send request, and I wasn't surprised by this, but I was met with actually not an error this time. The request went through, but when I looked at the response, the total had not been modified, so that didn't work out. And then I'm like, well, there are a lot of fields here in the request payload. Let me go ahead and try one more time, right? So I hit tip again, and I noticed that in the request payload, there was a discount field, and it said discount 0. So I thought to myself, well, what if I modify that to discount my entire total? And so I put like discount, if my total was $83, I said discount $83. I hit send, and again, it did not work. I got hit with that same error. Your tip cannot be a negative, and your total must be greater than or equal to $1. And then I remembered, oh my goodness, what if I discount my order such that my total is greater than or equal to $1? And so if my total was 83, I said, well, discount $82. I hit send, and to my surprise, it actually worked. The example you guys are seeing right here in front of you, I discounted $130 and my total was $1.93. So I didn't take off the cents, but this is the response. This is confirmation that this was modified, right? On the UI, you could see that it actually reflected this. It actually changed. I didn't go in here and modify the HTML. This is based off of the response, the API response. And I could not believe it. I had 6 burritos that I was paying for to be delivered to me, and I was going to pay only $1.93 because I modified the discount field in the put request, which is, all of this is redacted, again, to keep this company private. But this worked, and I could not believe my eyes. So I wanted to be 1000% sure that this was actually true, and I went ahead and made the purchase. And to my surprise, in my banking statement, I saw that I only got charged $1.93. Please ignore my available balance at that time. But I took a screenshot and submitted this with the report. It was in the middle of the night. I think it was midnight. I woke up my wife. I was so excited. I'm like, look, I'm buying 6 burritos for $1.93. And she knows that I was bug bounty hunting. But she was super tired and tried to be super supportive and was like, oh, cool, and went back to bed. But yeah, I bought 6 burritos with $1.93. And so it's the middle of the night, it was midnight, and I started drafting up my report and I submitted it. I think it was before 1 a.m. I went to bed. By 10 a.m. the next day, they had already paid me, acknowledged the vulnerability, and paid me for it. They paid me $4,500 for this bug, and I was just over the moon ecstatic. I could not believe that something like this could be out in the wild, and that I found it. Part of me feels like I got really lucky that a developer maybe forgot about this, but it was awesome. It was awesome to see this broken access control out in the wild. Um, so at this point in my conversation, I just want to highlight that like HackerOne has done a lot of research on the most common vulnerabilities surfaced by bug bounty. You can see that in number one is cross-site scripting. A lot of that is client side, but number two is improper access control, which is a big umbrella for that broken access control falls under, and that's what my P1 bug was. So this really does reflect what I'm experiencing. And then at number three, we have information disclosure, which is what my first bug was, right? With that GraphQL endpoint. There's another chart by HackerOne that you can observe here, kind of demonstrating the last couple of years and what the most common vulnerabilities are. Again, number two, information disclosure, and number three, improper access control. They're swapped in this report, but both of my bugs fell under there. I do have two IDORs, insecure direct object references. Bugs that I've submitted that are pending right now. I'm hoping that those cash out as well. But all this to say, like, these bugs are out there, and they're even at Fortune 500 companies. We all make mistakes. If you dig deep enough and if you spend enough time, you will find something like this. And the data shows that this stuff exists out there, right? So I want to keep it very real for you guys and let you know that although it was super awesome that I got that big bounty from the P1 bug, it's really been feast or famine. I have not had another paid bounty since then. But in my time as a bug bounty hunter since August, I've had 3 accepted bugs totaling about $5,200. I've reported 5 duplicates. So duplicates are super common. One of them was a business logic bug. 4 of them were broken access control. Again, reflecting what the HackerOne reports are reporting, right? And then I've also have had 6 reports rejected, either because I wasn't able to demonstrate impact, or the company was willing to accept the risk. This is public knowledge, but if you guys go to HackerOne and look up Starbucks bug bounty program, you'll see that they mention in their program that they are not interested in bugs that will give users free food or help them gain free drinks or free food. And that's because they've already allotted a budget for those kinds of losses. And so if you discover a bug that will get you unlimited food or get you a free drink here and there, Starbucks is not interested in that, right? So it's not, they're willing to accept that risk. Unfortunately, I've reported bugs like that where I feel like, oh my gosh, like how could you not want to deal with this? But if the company's willing to accept the risk, there's nothing really we could do about it, right? So yeah, it's feast or famine, but I want you guys to be encouraged. The lessons so far, or the lessons I've learned so far as a bug bounty hunter is, number one, bugs do exist out in the wild, even in Fortune 500 companies. Both of my bugs that I shared with you guys today were for Fortune 500 companies. The second thing that I've learned so far as a bug bounty hunter is that being part of a community is essential. Whether that be APISEC use community on Discord or the Critical Thinking Bug Bounty podcast community, I'm part of both of those, and I've just met some of the most awesome people there. Super encouraging. When it's famine, right? It's easy to get discouraged, but you can talk to other bug bounty hunters and learn that, hey, this is normal. You just have to keep going, and there's gonna be feasts soon, right? So last thing I've learned, This is actually a quote from my wife. A duplicate bug does not mean that you're a bad hacker. It just means that you're not getting paid for it, or that you were late, is what somebody said in the chat when I was giving this talk. The last thing I want to leave with you guys is that is this quote from Joseph Thacker, also known as Rezo. He's the co-host for the Critical Thinking Bug Bounty podcast. But he says a lot of bug bounty beginners just need someone to tell them to keep going. And so whenever you're feeling like giving up, or whenever I feel like giving up, I go back to this tweet and I remember, hey, I just have to keep going. The bugs are out there. I'm gonna get better at this, and we'll find a bug here soon. Okay, that's pretty much it. There was a Q&A section. I know this is not the live recording, but there were a couple of attendees who asked good questions. One attendee asked how I pick a bug bounty program, or how do I recommend picking a bug bounty program. And really, my recommendation to bug bounty hunters or new bug bounty hunters is to pick a program that they would be excited about. I love burritos, and so that's why I picked that. And I still hack on that company's program because I just enjoy it. It makes it super easy when you're passionate about that application or that service, right? So pick something you're super interested. Pick a company that you're interested in and hack on their platform. Of course, make sure that they have a bug bounty program. Don't just pick a random company because that's illegal. We don't have permission to just ethically hack any company, right? So we want to make sure that there is a bug bounty program on either HackerOne or Bugcrowd or Integrity. Yes, we hack any of those platforms, right? Some companies also host their own independent bug bounty programs. I know Google does. They have their VRP, so you can check those out as well. Just make sure that you have permission to hack. And then I'm trying to remember the other questions. I think somebody asked me if I hack on HackerOne. I hack on HackerOne programs and Bugcrowd. Those are my two main targets. And the other big question that was asked is, how do you avoid duplicates? As you can see, even I am unable to avoid duplicates altogether. But what I would say that I hear a lot of hackers say, and that's been helpful for me, is to go deep. Once you feel like you've exhausted all the functionality, like check again. Look for new subdomains, and if they're in scope.